My lords, honorable members of parliament, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I would like to thank Professor Doyle and also Lord Faulkner and Sir Geoffrey Donaldson for inviting me to speak with you today on the work of National Muslim War Memorial Trust, of which I'm a chairman. Today, I will first give a bit of background to our initiative and then talk about what we want to do and why we want to do it and what we have done so far. I would like to pay tribute to the Muslims who have served alongside British armed forces and who continue to do so. Unfortunately, the contribution of Muslims to our armed forces is not widely acknowledged and has been historically undervalued. And this is the reason why we set up the National Muslim War Memorial Trust. I want you to discuss the contribution of Muslims and Indians in the First and Second World War. And the idea of the trust came to me about a year ago. I took part in debates in the House of Lords on these subjects. And this was around the centenary of the Armistice Day, when I paid tribute to the many Muslim Indian soldiers and servicemen who were part of Britain's war efforts. For instance, during the First World War, 2.5 million Muslim soldiers and laborers from all over the world fought with the Allied forces with dignity and honor. In World War II, 5.5 million Muslims participated on the Allied side, and unfortunately, some of them paid the ultimate price during the two world wars. Since the centenary, I've organized several events on the contribution of Muslims and Indians in World War I and World War II in the House of Lords. And at one of the events, we held an exhibition of memorabilia from the world wars, and the great grandsons of Sepoy Khudadad Khan VC came over from Pakistan to attend the event. I also met with General Sir Nick Carter, Chief of Defense Staff, who was very supportive of our initiative. And I did ask Sir Nick whether he would ask a senior serving officer to be a trustee of the charity. He told me the serving officers were not able to hold such position, but he recommended that I write to Major General Charles Paturini, and I did this, and the Major General agreed to come on board with us, and he is our Vice Chairman. The other trustees are Lord Laxton, Mac Chishti, and Muhammad Amin. Lord Laxton is a historian for the Conservative Party and the Carlton Club, and he has also reviewed both of my books, which I've written. He's also Deputy Speaker in the House of Lords. Mac Chishti is a retired police commander in the New Scotland Yard, and this is, of course, one of the highest ranks held by a Muslim in the United Kingdom. It was very important for us to have proper governance, and this is the reason I approached Muhammad Amin to be a trustee. He's a qualified chartered accountant and a former senior partner of PricewaterhouseCoopers. To make sure that everything was done properly, we also engaged the services of a leading specialist firm of solicitors called Bates Wells. I thought it was important that we have young people with us, and in order, we wanted these young people to join us so that we have a continuous process. And we've got 5 youngsters who are professional persons who are our associate members. These bright young persons are Zaid Balbegi, Khlaq Hussain, Raila Javed, Samir Tantre, and Kausa Zaman. As a businessman, I've always believed that it's important for us to have our ducks in a row before we can start shooting, and this is what we have done. We've established our bank account, and Muhammad Amin has done the gift aid facilities. He's also produced our brochure, and he's also done our website, and he has social media channels, and he is doing this extremely well, and everything is being done properly. We have started to look for donations from individuals, institutions, and organizations, and also from other charities. In fact, one charity paid us a substantial donation. And we have started to receive these donations, a large one, small ones, but we are now actively looking for more donations. The seed money for the initiative was donated by the trustees, and all our expenses have been paid. The charity has two main objectives. Firstly, to erect and maintain public national war memorial to commemorate the service of Muslims in Britain's armed forces during the two world wars and subsequent conflicts. After one of my talks in Manchester, I was approached by an architect who said that he would be able to design the memorial, and he would do it on pro bono basis. But I have decided that we will have a competition and choose the best architect who can design, will be able to design our memorial. It is our intention to erect a memorial at a prominent site in London, and subsequently we hope to have smaller memorials in the National Memorial Arboretum, also in Birmingham, Manchester, and Bradford, where there's a large Muslim population. Our second objective is to educate the public about the contribution of Muslims to Britain's armed forces through their role, service, and sacrifice during both world wars and subsequent conflicts. The education will take place at schools, colleges, and universities, and I have in fact found 4 volunteers who are willing to do so. In 2 weeks' time, I'm hoping to meet Jahan Mahmood, who is a leading historian and a lecturer, and he has already done some educational work, and we are going to discuss how we can set up our program for the education work which I alluded to. We're also going to talk with the Ministry of Education to see how the ministry can support us and also have contribution and include contributions of the Muslims in the school and educational curriculum. We believe that this is very timely, and we have received a great deal of support from various members of the Muslim community as well as other persons. When we were setting up the charity, I did write to Lord Bourne of Aberystwyth when he was the Minister of Faith, and he was very supportive of our initiative, and he sent a senior civil servant to see me to discuss how the government may be able to help us to take our objective forward. And the government has said they will not be able to make any donations, but they will provide us with whatever assistance they can. A couple of weeks ago, I, with Lord Alistair Laxton, we wrote to the Prime Minister and 9 other ministers asking for additional support and endorsement to see how they can help us. I spoke on our initiative in the House of Lords last week, and today, in fact, I've received a letter of support from Baroness Gouldy, who is the Minister of State at the Ministry of Defense. I also have had a very productive conversation with the Royal British Legion, and they have commended us on our efforts. We look forward to working with the Legion to explore the ways we can partner and support each other. We were concerned about the findings of the report of the Commonwealth Graves Commission, who understand are with us this evening. My fellow trustee, Major General Fataruni, who is with us today, had discussions with the Commission, and we are actively looking at ways of supporting the report's recommendations, especially recommendation number 5, which is about education. Education is very important, as this will help to bring communities together and foster harmony between different groups. One of the key reasons we have set up the charity is to combat Islamophobia, and people should realize the sacrifices Muslims have made to keep the Union Jack flying. Telling and building the story of their heroic service will help to build a better Britain for everyone. I would like to talk about contributions of Muslims who were a significant part of the British armed forces during both the wars. The Muslims came from all over the world and played a pivotal role in Allied forces all over the globe. Although our charity focuses on British armed forces, we would like to recognize the service of 800,000 Muslims from North, West, and East Africa who fought in the French armed forces. There were 1.3 million Muslims in the Russian army and 5,000 Muslims in the American forces who also fought the Germans. In fact, 27 million Muslims were killed in World War II, and this number including a lot of Muslims. During World War I, the British Indian Army numbered over 1.3 million, and at least 400,000 of these servicemen were Muslims. The British Indian Army was composed of volunteers who served in France, Belgium, Gallipoli, East Africa, Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Persia. Overall, from the British Indian Army, over 53,000 were killed, 65,000 injured, and 3,800 were missing or taken prisoners. A significant number of Muslims served in the British Merchant Navy. They came from India, Yemen, British Somaliland, and other countries. More than 15,000 merchant seamen lost their lives, which included Muslims, and some were taken prisoners. One of the first theaters of war for Indian soldiers was on the Western Front in October 1914. Reports and letters tell us that Muslim soldiers shared their food with local people who were suffering from famine and food shortage in Europe. Our holy prophet, Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught his men to respect women, not to damage environment, and to treat prisoners of war with respect. And this is what the Muslims did do. The Muslim soldiers felt that the enemy soldiers must be treated with respect when they are captured. In fact, in late 1915, Indian units were withdrawn from France and Flanders and deployed to fight in the Ottoman Empire in the Middle East, where they bore the brunt of the fighting on the Palestinian and Mesopotamian fronts. Another place where a lot of action took place was in Africa, such as the British invasion of German colonies in West Africa. British West Africa units included two military formations, the West African Regiment and the West African Frontier Forces, which were drawn from Sierra Leone, Ghana, Nigeria, and the Gambia. These formations saw actions alongside French forces in Cameroon and Togoland. The East African Campaign was a 4-year guerrilla campaign mainly fought by the King's African Rifles. The King's African Rifles was made up of soldiers from some of the British colonies in Africa, and the headquarters of the units was in fact in Kenya, where I was born. Although the exact numbers are unknown, the King's African Rifles was said to contain a large percentage of Muslims. Rather than trench warfare, this theater of war saw soldiers hundreds of miles through jungles and highlands with hundreds of skirmishes and lightning-quick battles. This caused many logistical challenges, such as the supply chains lasting hundreds of miles and very high exposure to tropical diseases. This photograph in front of you, like this, which shows a soldier in King's African Rifles in his smart uniform. But do you notice he does not have any shoes? In fact, as a young boy, I used to see the Africans walking about all over the place without any shoes. So he's got a smart uniform, but not any shoes. As I said earlier, I was born and brought up in East Africa. In fact, my uncle, Muhammad Ishaq, joined the King's African Rifles, and he fought in Abyssinia. He was in fact a sergeant major, and when I was a young boy, he used to talk to me about his time in Abyssinia. We have included this picture on our website, but sadly we could not find one of him in uniform, but he does look very smart in his suit. As I've said previously, although we are focusing on Britain's armed forces, I would like to talk briefly about the Battle of Marne. The Battle of Marne took place in September 1914. It was an offensive by the French Army and British Expeditionary Force against advancing Germans who were within 30 miles of Paris. 2,400 soldiers from the Moroccan division were deployed in the offensive, and it is said that without enormous sacrifices of these soldiers, who were mainly Muslims, it is likely that Paris could have been captured by the German troops. The Moroccan division was the only French division decorated with the Legion d'Honneur during World War I. By World War II, the British Indian Army had significantly grown to 2.5 million. Of this, approximately 1 million were Muslims. Muslims were mainly from India and African countries, and they fought on 3 continents and played a decisive role in Britain's first land victory against Germany in North Africa. For example, in August 1939, the 4th Indian Division was sent to Egypt and successfully fought the Italians and drove them out of the country by late 1940. In 1941, another Indian division was sent to East Africa to take part in the campaigns against the Italians in Ethiopia and Eritrea. They fought valiantly in Somalia, Abyssinia, and Madagascar. The greatest Muslim contribution as part of the British Indian Army was fighting the Japanese in the Far East Campaign. 9,000 to 12,000 Palestinians fought for Britain in World War II in Egypt and Mesopotamia, and this included 1,500 soldiers from the Arab Legion in Jordan. The exact number of Muslim casualties are not known, but over 87,000 Indian servicemen died, over 34,000 were wounded, and over 67,000 became prisoners of war. In both world wars, Muslims were recognized with decorations for their bravery and valor in combat. 30% of African distinguished conduct medals were awarded to Nigerian Muslims. 6 out of 42 African distinguished conduct medals were awarded to Muslims. Hundreds of military awards were won by Muslims. 7 Muslims were awarded the Victoria Cross, the last one being received by Sheikh Shah in 1945. Khudadat Khan, we got his picture here, was the first non-white person to be awarded the Victoria Cross in 1914. He was a Muslim who came from Chakwal in present-day Pakistan. And I've heard this story from a Pakistani general, and he told me that when Khudadat Khan was awarded Victoria Cross, the British asked him, "What can we do for you?" He said, "I do not want any money, just extend the railway to my village and put a cannon outside my house." In total, 6 George Crosses were awarded to Muslims, including Captain Mateen Ansari. He was captured by the Japanese. And you probably, if you look at the history, there were some Indians who went to join the Japanese at the request of Subhash Chandra Bose. And Captain Ansari was captured by the Japanese. They tortured him. They wanted him to change sides from supporting the British to supporting the Japanese. He refused to do that, and they beheaded him. In World War II, Noor Inayat Khan, everybody knows about Noor Inayat Khan, GC, was the first female wireless operator sent by Britain to assist the French resistance in 1943. She was executed at Dachau concentration camp in 1944. She was awarded the George Cross in 1949 and the French Croix de Guerre. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it right, but Croix de Guerre. She was tortured by the Germans, but never gave up, never gave the enemy any information. One of the things we have done on our website, and Muhammad Amin is dealing with that, is to set up a veterans project. And we hope that families of veterans will be able to come forward and share their stories. I'm hoping to meet a 100-year war veteran who lives in Ilford. I hope to see him in about a week's time. He held the rank of a colonel, and he and other veterans have been asking for a memorial to set up to commemorate the contribution of Muslims, and we hope by doing so we can fulfill their desires. Although we have started out this initiative, we need to keep it going on continuous basis, especially the education work, and I hope that our young associate members can take over from us to keep the charity going. I personally believe in building harmony between communities, and I'm actively involved in interfaith dialogue. For example, I'm a patron of 5 organizations, and 3 of these organizations are non-Muslim organizations. I'm also connected with Muslim charities, and we undertake humanitarian work for Muslims as well as non-Muslims from all over the world. I very much hope the contribution of Muslims can be appreciated and we can build a cohesive society. Oh, I have always thought that one of the great things about this country is that although the Church of England is the official church, all religions are respected and there are no restrictions on what people can wear and how or where they can pray. But we should not be complacent, and there's still room for improving the relationship between people, and we must do all we can to build harmony and peace. I'll end up by saying that we're actively looking for donations from individuals, institutions, and other charities. We're already beginning to receive contributions, and of course, we are not only looking for donations, but we are looking for additional support from anyone who's able to provide us with such support. Thank you.